broadcasts a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
Welcome to another edition of Discover Tinley, where we highlight the great things about Tinley Park. We highlight the organizations and people in town that make Tinley Park a really great place in which to live. And as we all know, Tinley Park is a pretty great place in which to live. My name's Ron Centani. I'll be your host tonight, as usual. And it's always brought to you through the services of the Community Resources Commission, one of the volunteer commissions in Tinley Park. And we do several things throughout the year. We just got done doing the Christmas with Santa at the train station in December. And coming up in April is Discover Tinley, so put April 5th on your calendars for watching Discover Tinley coming to Tinley Park on April 5th. A lot of things happening. I can't believe it's the new year already. It's 2014. Thank goodness the 13 is past us. And we look forward to another great year in town here, another great year of all of you. I hope you all had a great holiday season, great Christmas season, and hopefully enjoy a good new year with you and your families. As always, the first meeting of the year, the first broadcast of the year, we get a very stellar report from our mayor, the mayor, Ed Zabrocki, who comes to us and tells us about the state of the village and how things are going in town here for you to see. So welcome, Mayor Ed, to Discover Tinley.
Thank you very much, Ron. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about our community.
Oh, yeah. Well, always. And you're, of all the people, you're the most involved and most informed, I think. Let's get first things out of the way first. How are the finances in town here? How are we doing?
Well, that's always the first question many people have is, where are we at with finances, taxes, et cetera, those kinds of things. We basically, Ron, have three sources of income in our community: sales tax, real estate tax, and income tax. That constitutes over 90% of our income. And thankfully, all of those are doing reasonably well. Our sales tax, let me first of all say, our budget for the coming year will be about $42 million.
Wow.
And we control probably another $50 million through bonds, et cetera, that kind of thing. So, we are not a mom and pop organization by any stretch of the imagination. And one of the sources that we watch very closely is sales tax. And that's when you purchase something in our community, we get a portion of that sale from the state of Illinois back to us. And roughly 40% of that $42 million is sales tax, 30% is sales tax.
Wow.
Of that sales tax, 40% is car sales. So that's why we are so active on 159th Street in maintaining those car dealerships. And I might say Orland Park is the same with us, because that's nice, quote-unquote, clean money. It's money that comes in. It's a large amount of money because you pay taxes on those cars, and there's no impact on the school districts, which I think is important. So 40% of that sales tax, which is 30% of the $42 million, is from car sales. So we're very active with that. The one source of income that we're concerned about, and it's a relatively minor source, but it's going to get bigger as we go on, is when you purchase gas, there's something called motor fuel tax. And that's part of the tax that the state of Illinois gets by the sale of gasoline. And we get a portion of that back. Now, because of the price of gasoline, because cars have become more efficient, and electric cars are coming more and more online, that MFT tax is going down. Oh, and that's a concern for us, because that's the tax that maintains our roads. Okay. So we're not exactly sure what's going to happen with that, There's some different experimentations going on. One is in Oregon, where they're taxing on the miles you drive, regardless of whether it's a propane car or a gas car or an electric car, or whatever it may be. There's some other things. So I think something like that will be changing in Illinois over the next couple of years. Overall, we're in very, very good shape.
We are in the black in the village. Right?
Oh, there's no question of us being in the black, Ron. We've always been in the black.
Okay.
And one of the key elements in determining that is our bond rating. And we're a AA plus rated community. And that puts us in the top 5% of all government agencies in the U.S. Wow. So that puts us in very good shape from a financial standpoint. But again, we have to watch it. We have to make sure we have fund balances. We have to make sure we're not on tax anticipation, those kinds of things. So that is a concern that we worry about. And, you know, right now there's a lot of issues out there about pensions and what's going on with pensions with teachers, policemen, firemen. We are at approximately 74% funded for our police pension fund. Now you say, well, why not 100%? Well, quite frankly, that number is determined on the age of your policeman, etc., that kind of thing. We use two agencies to determine what percentage we should be at. One is the state of Illinois, and the second is our own rating agency. And they give us a number of where we should be at, and that's roughly 72%. State of Illinois is probably around a little above 50%. And some communities are a bit higher than us also, and they chose to do that. But being at 74% or so, we're right where we should be, and we're going to be continuing that. So from that standpoint, pensions will not be an issue for the village of Tinley Park. Schools are another thing.
Yeah, that's a whole different ball game. Wow. Okay, and our police and fire departments, I understand, are doing pretty well, or manned pretty well.
They're manned pretty well. We're going to be adding a couple more cops.
Oh wow.
To the group that we have. You could always use more cops.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You know, some people would like a cop on every corner, but you know, you got to get practical about it. Yeah. Fire department, we're paid on call fire department. We're staffing 4 fire stations. Our response times are very, very good. And I might also say is that, you know, sometimes there's a feeling that, well, maybe because our guys are paid on call, they're not as trained. That's absolutely not true. Okay. When a fireman goes out and he's an engineer, he gets the same training as any other fireman in any other district. So let's make sure we get that up front. And I will put our firemen up against anyone else. Now, many times you'll see a fire in Tinley Park or a fire in Mokina or a fire in Orland Park, and you'll see, especially if you have a fire in Tinley, you'll see a Orland Park fire truck there, or you might see a Mokina fire truck. We have a situation where we do mutual aid for each other, okay? So that if we're on the fringes of some things, we will bring a truck from Orland Park or one from Frankfurt or something along those lines, and simply as a backup for each other. And it works out well. They've been doing it for the last several years, and yeah, sometimes you get a lot of fire trucks there, but you can't have too many when you need them.
Better have more than enough.
You got it right.
That's good. Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of fire department, they use the water. I guess there's some issues now with the water mains coming in.
Well, actually, not really an issue. It's a kind of a planning ahead. And let me give you a little bit of history. The village of Tinley Park is on Chicago water. Previous to 1972, we were on wells, and the wells were questionable at that time. So there were 2 trustees at the time, Bob Mason and Dick Durkin, both have passed. It was their idea to bring Chicago water to Tinley Park, which, when we look back at, is one of the great things that happened to this community, and our thanks go to those 2 guys. So a line was negotiated with Oak Lawn to bring water to Tinley Park, Orland Park, Oak Forest, those 3 communities. Those 3 communities. And a line was brought out from Oak Forest, from Orland Park through Oak Forest with a separate line going to Orland Park.
Oak Lawn, you mean?
From Oak Lawn to Oak Forest with a separate line going to Orland Park and to us. And that line has served us well. But that line was built in 1982. And if my math is right, that line's about 30 years old. Okay. Now we've been lucky through the years, Ron. We've had some breaks with them, but nothing real serious. So what we have in our contract with Oak Lawn has gone out. The contract with Oak Forest, Tinley Park, and Orland Park with Oak Forest, that contract has lapsed, and we've continued the contract until we renegotiated a new one. So what we have done over the past 2 years, we have worked with those three communities and added Mokina and New Lenox to the mix. And we are very close right now to the point of signing a new contract with Oak Lawn to build a second line. And the second line will come out from the Oak Lawn area and serve these 5 communities. It's a 60-inch line.
Oh, my.
And what it will do, it will give us enough water up until 2055. Now it sounds kind of when you start looking at it this way, but let me make sure I get the right number on it. Right now, we need about 50 million gallons a day for those communities. Okay. Now, when you get up to probably 10 to 15 years from now, we're going to be well over that. And what this new line will do, it'll give us up to 100 million gallons a day. Now, you know, you have to plan ahead. The line's going to take 2 to 3 years to build, okay? It's a redundancy line. It's a secondary line. One of the things that we've done in Tinley Park through the years is all of our neighborhoods have redundancy lines. In other words, all the systems are looped. So if your house has a water main break here, the entire neighborhood is not out. Just the 2 or 3 or 4 houses, because we can back it up. We've done those kinds of things. With this second line, it'll be separated from the first line, and it will go out. Now the question comes up, how much does it cost? Who's going to pay for it? Okay? I'm anticipating the next question. Okay. Basically what's going to happen, the line is going to cost about $170 million. But it's not all ours. Okay? We have 24% of it, because we use 24% of that, we'll be using of that water. So it'll be split up proportionally between Orland Park, Oak Forest, New Lenox, and Mokina. So that's how the line will be split up. We're anticipating at about $5 to $7 a month increase in the water because of that. And that's spread out over a 20-year bond issue. And that's how it'll be done. We looked at a 40-year, but the numbers don't work right. It just doesn't do it. And when you look at your water bills, because we all do, and
Yes.
let me get the numbers right, roughly 65% of your water bill goes to Chicago to pay for the water. 5% goes to Oak Lawn for processing, et cetera, that kind of thing. And the rest of it goes to us to maintain lines and those kinds of things. Now, it's incumbent upon that 5% in Oak Lawn to pay for the pumps, et cetera, that kind of thing. And in Chicago, that's 63% to filter the water, take it out of Lake Michigan, run it through the filtration plants, and send it up to us. We're expecting one more big increase from Chicago in January of 14, and that'll be the last. Now you say, well, you know, Chicago raised the water rates for pretty good for the last couple of years. Yes, they have, but for many years they were stable. So it's kind of a catch-up thing. So it's kind of an interesting thing, and people say, well, you know, we shouldn't have a problem with water because we have Lake Michigan. We could just throw a line in that water and pull it all in. You can't do that.
Thank you.
Each community has a allocation, and that's what they get. And they can't go over that allocation because the controls on the allocation are controlled by all of the states bordering the Great Lakes, plus the provinces of Canada, plus the federal government of U.S., and plus the federal government of Canada. Wow. So there's a lot of fingers in that pie. Yeah. About 10 to 15 years ago, there was a movement to pump water out of the Great Lakes system into Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. Oh my. Because they were having water problems. Once they found out what they had to do that, and that the possibility of it happen was nil to impossible, they dropped it.
Thank you.
But I have to believe, and I have to give Danny McLaughlin, mayor from Orland Park, the credit for this. He said that water will be the oil of the 2020s and 2030s, and there's a lot of truth to that. When you look at our water rates, you say, my God, they're very, very high. But when you look at water rates in other parts of the United States, we're very reasonable.
I go down to Phoenix, Arizona
Okay.
regularly, and when I look at the water rates down there, I'm very
Okay.
thankful I live in
So
Illinois.
ours are basically, they're high
Yes.
for their area, but they're
Yeah.
reasonable for
Right,
what
yeah,
when you
yeah,
look at
yeah.
in a total kind of picture.
Wow. Well, let's hope that takes care of our situation.
Mm-hmm.
We won't be around in 2050, but but hopefully the people who are will be satisfied with their water input. Another big issue that's come up this year is the tree problem. The
Emerald ash borer,
Emerald ash borer.
better known as EAB.
Yeah. What are we doing on that?
Well, we gave a contract to Homer Tree Service out of Homer Glen for approximately $1.5 million. They will be starting, and by the time this program goes on, they will have started. They have to pull down over 8,000 trees in our area, in Tinley Park, that have emerald ash borer. We had to monitor each tree, in other words, identify each tree, determine whether it's savable or not, and there's about 750 trees we're going to try and save. But most of them are pretty well gone, and you can't cut up an ash tree for firewood and sell it because of the emerald ash borers that are in it. They have to be chewed up, and that's part of the cost. So that'll be happening, and I hate to say it, but when you have an opportunity, take a look around the village hall. Every one of those trees are emerald ash borer trees.
Really?
And they'll all come down,
Oh.
which will make the village hall look very naked. And just go through some of the neighborhoods.
Yeah, yes.
You know, it doesn't, you know, you see it. Yeah. So the next question comes, what are we going to replace them with? We're in the process now of working out probably a 3-year program to replace those trees, because we're not going to put in the 6-inch trees, okay? We're going to put in trees that are anywhere from 2 to 3 inches in diameter across, okay? And those trees will probably be 8 to 10 feet high. Those are expensive. Those are well over $250 to $275 a piece. So what we're probably going to do, Ron, and these are the plans that we're talking about now, is to, over a 3-year period, replace those trees. And we're looking at about $2.5 to $3 million to replace
so it's
those.
1 point some million just to take them out.
Just to take them out.
And
another 2.5 to 3 to replace them.
Wow.
So it is an expensive proposition. Yeah. And what we will do is we're going to have a situation where we're going to be planting, I believe it's between 6 and 7 different kinds of trees in each block. So we don't have this kind of thing that'll happen in the future. Yeah. You know, it was nice to have one kind of tree, and at the time, the ash trees, nothing, they seemed fine against anything. But you go through neighborhoods now and you see the ash trees look beautiful, nice canopy, everything else. And it's going to be tragic to see those come down.
That's a shame. Yeah, it's like you say, some neighborhoods, that's the main tree.
That's the main tree in the neighborhood, yeah.
Oh, there could be some bare treats.
The downside of the newer process is that you're going to have a kind of a staggering of different types of trees, different kind of leaves, different kind of colors.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, like you said, so we don't run into a problem with another beetle coming around and wiping out the whole slew.
Exactly.
It might get one or two. That's about it.
That's where we're at with that. And
okay.
they have 1 year to pull all those trees out.
Oh. So in 1 year, we're going to see them all
You're going to see them all go out.
Oh, my. Okay. Wow.
It's going to be very bare.
Yeah. Wow. Well, let's talk about some positive things. The economic development. And we got another award recently, didn't we?
Yeah, Ron. It's kind of been interesting. The awards that we have gotten so far, being one of the best communities to live in, the best community to live in by Business Week magazine. This one came from a real estate group, and we were ranked number 9 of the top communities to live in the United States.
And that's of the United States.
Of the United States, right.
Wow.
And that they went into crime statistics, income levels, services, education, library, park district. So those kinds of things all come together when a group like that looks at it. And we're very proud of those, because what that says, Ron, it shows a community working together. It's not just the village, it's the schools, it's the education, it's the library, the park district, the people, the churches, all of that work together to make a community. And we're very proud of those kinds of things.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, something is going right. Something is happening positively in town here, so that's a tremendous accomplishment. Not only say to the village government, but the schools, everybody in town working together doing that. Well, Tinley Park is good on award. That's pretty neat.
We're very happy to get those, especially when they're unsolicited.
Oh, exactly, exactly. Well, speaking of economic development, now what's going on? Are we going up to par on that? Are some new things coming into town here?
What we see so far around are flashes of development here and there. Okay.
And let me just preface, the economy is not exactly booming too. So every little town is not going to be booming too. There's going to be little flashes here and there. So we're kind of probably going along with what
we're feeling pretty good. It's been a long time coming, but Castos is being filled. Okay. The senior citizens are going to be happy with Golden Corral. Okay. That'll be operational by the time this hits. The folks from Isabel's have got the old Bogarts. That's coming around. That's working pretty well, and they're working on that now. And there's a couple little stores here and there coming in, but your downtown areas are always difficult to bring together, and we work very hard at doing that. And we sponsor well over 80 different events on Oak Park Avenue. Bring people there. We have the Christmas things that you guys are very involved in. We have the car shows, which are fantastic. You've had your vehicle out there several times. That has turned out very, very well for us on a Tuesday night. And all the different the concerts. So we need to bring people down. But the thing that we do ultimately need for Oak Park Avenue are people seats. We have to have more people living in the area. Once you do that, they will sustain the local businesses much more than people coming in from the outside.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. I know a lot of towns, I was saying before, when we were growing up, every town had their downtown district, and that's where everybody went. That was the focal point. But then when the shopping malls and the strip malls came into being, people started spreading out, and shopping is no longer just downtown. It's all over the place. So it's going to be hard to make a downtown area alive as we used to know it.
Not only that, but Ron, but as we talked earlier, you have some social changes. Everybody's sitting in front of a computer. Everybody's at home doing these different things. We see the jokes about two people sitting at a table texting back and forth to each other. So it's the whole lifestyles have changed. So it makes it difficult for the mom and pops to survive and to build that.
But at least the village is doing things to try to get it going.
A couple of different things right online. We're going to Oak Park Avenue is going to be redone from 171st Street to 183rd next year in 2014, and we're going to be put finishing touches so that you can bike and walk from the convention center to downtown Oak Park, downtown Tinley, by walking or by bike.
Wow.
And that'll be done in 2014.
Okay, wow. Within our lifetime.
Within our lifetime, and the best part of it, we're only paying about 80%, or we're only paying about 20% of it. 80% is from outside sources.
You guys seem to have good sources of getting other people to pay for
it. We have a staff that does very, very well on that, Ron. Ron, we get for every dollar we get, we probably put in maybe 30 cents, 20 cents. So it's a good return on your dollar.
Yes, very good. Do you want to comment a little bit on our Walmart issue? That's been a big thing going on.
Walmart issues, that's still in play. As now we're doing this in December. One of the local school districts turned it down, which was kind of surprising, at least to me personally. Walmart is still looking around at other locations, not only here in Tinley, but very close by to us. And my concern would be is that we may have all the problems that people perceive that a Walmart may bring, and none of the dollars that it will bring. And that's a bit of a concern.
Wow. Okay. Anything else going on here with Tinley Park that you'd like to bring up? The other thing is the volunteer commissions in Tinley. I know Tinley Park is big on
the volunteers.
What part do they have to play in the village board and the village functions here?
Well, if you look at the village board, you'll see all of the members came from some type of commission or volunteer position in some way or another. And I think it's important to know that, as we talked earlier, the village is not a minor thing anymore. When you're dealing with $90 million a year, you better have a pretty good handle on what's going on. So it's important for people to have an idea of what government is all about and what is involved in it. And that's where your village commissions come in. Folks like yourself with the CRC or long-range planning, they have a concept of what government is like and what it is at a grassroots level. Many people think you can jump in and do this and that and the other thing. It really doesn't work that way, because for everything you do, you got to look at what kind of reaction you get, what's the unforeseen circumstances that you try to minimize. But volunteers are important, Ron, and we're always looking for them.
Yeah, some people get the impression that the village board up there does things just on their own initiative, and they don't realize there's a lot of things that go into.
Ron, I put in roughly 55 to 60 hours a week.
Oh my!
And I would venture to say that each trustee's from 20 to 25 hours a week.
Okay.
And that's not only meeting, but just reading reports, files, keeping an eye on what's going on in Springfield. You know, all of those kinds of things. That's where your time is spent to build up that body of knowledge, so that when you have to make a decision, you've got something to make it from.
Right. Well, speaking of that, I wanted we got about another couple minutes left there. You just ran again for mayor.
My ninth time.
You must have a lot of free time on your hands. Of course, you're retired now, and you got tons of free time. What keeps you going? What keeps you wanting to serve Tinley Park?
Well, Ron, you know, you talked about volunteers before. I moved to Tinley Park in 1970. November of 1970, and in January, February of 1971, I wrote to then Jack Dunn asking to get involved in the village. And then he put me on something called the Human Resources Commission, which was your parent commission, so to speak. And I got involved. And one thing led to another, and what brought me to the village, quite frankly, is that I had beef with the village. And they were going to tear up my front lawn quite a bit, and I wasn't sure it was going to get fixed. So I went to the village and talked to Jack Dunn, and kind of one thing led to another, and it happened. But I've always felt very strongly about giving back to the community and giving back. I'm a people person. I'm orientated towards people. I enjoy doing what I'm doing. And this may sound kind of hokey, or some people may snicker at it, but in the 32 years that I've been mayor, I've never really made a decision based on politics, based on what is good for the village. And I have to say, the village 99% of the time has been that way. Now, I'm sure somebody will pick out something someplace, okay? Yeah, fine, great. Right. But the trend is what's important. I love getting involved in the village. My son and his 5 children live in this village. I'm proud of that. Bought a second home in this village. I'm very proud that people buy their second and third homes in this community. It's a good community. Is everything done right 100% of the time? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Would I change things over 30 years? Yeah, there's a couple things I would change. Okay. But on the whole, things have been good, and quite frankly, I've been blessed with a very good village board through the years.
Yeah, we've been very lucky. We have had some very good people on the village board, and they're in the commissions and all that stuff, though. We've been very fortunate. Like you said, the Dick Durkins and the Bob Masons, who had the foresight.
The foresight. This is the water system alone.
Right, yeah. See all those things. So, well, let's hope that 2014 brings us some good things.
We're looking forward to it.
You keep going strong, and the village board keeps going strong. Maybe mention, who are the trustees? Let's
we have Brian Maher. He's in charge of public safety. We have T.J. Grady in charge of the building department. Dave Seaman, financial chair. Pat Ray, our clerk. We have Greg Hannon in charge of planning and zoning. Patty Leone in charge of budget and audit. And Tom Staunton in charge of public works. Wow. And we work together. And that's the important thing. We may fight about what paragraph we're on, but we're on the same page.
Very good. Well, again, thanks for coming to Discover Tinley and give us a state of the village. As you heard, Mayor Ed Zabrocki giving us a state of the village. Things seem to be going along very well, looking up, and we got a lot of good things to look forward to. So thanks for watching Discover Tinley, and we'll see you next month.